Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a video stabilizer from Deltron. This is called the Vimble, and after you turn it on, what it does is it keeps your iPhone 6 or 6 Plus or 6 or 6S Plus stable while you are holding it and shooting video. So you can see here now that it's powered on, my phone will stay relatively stable here as I'm moving my hand around, and it works pretty well, especially when you're walking. There are a number of different modes that we'll take a look at as we start playing with this device, but it is a good way for capturing very steady video, especially if you're in motion. They even have some settings on it to track faces and whatnot as well. Pretty cool stuff, and we'll be exploring this in more detail in just a second. I do want to mention, though, in the interest of full disclosure, this is on loan from Deltron, so when we're done with this, I'm going to be sending it back to them. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. All right, so let's take a look now at the hardware. This is actually a very well-constructed device, and it should be, considering it costs $300. It's being sold right now for $299 on their website as well as on Amazon. So not inexpensive, but well built as a result. Very nice, sturdy, high-impact plastic down here. The rest of it is all metal, so you've got a really nicely constructed device here that feels very sturdy. It weighs about 400 grams, which is about 0.8 pounds. So it is rather heavy and sturdy, so it might fatigue you over time holding your phone for this long like this, but I think you need something this meaty to keep that phone stable and operating well. The only issue I'm finding with it is that my phone is tending to get off balance here, so it's kind of sloped a little down towards the left there, as you can see, and I haven't been able to find an adjustment for it to get this more finely tuned to get it back into line there. It keeps falling back to where it was. So I don't know if they can fix that in firmware or offer something, but it is something I'm noticing on this, and I am seeing a little bit of that tilt showing up in the video. I'll put a link to some videos I shot with this down below in the video description. I'm sure that could be correctable. Now this only works with the iPhone 6 and the 6S as well as the Plus variants of the phone. If you have the larger Plus though, you have to attach a weight that they give you in the box to better counterbalance that added weight that those phones provide. Now, I am shooting this video the day before the new iPhone is announced, and by the time you see this, it'll probably be out on the announcement day. So I don't know if this will support the iPhone 7. I would imagine it would, provided they figure out how to balance the weight back off on this, because balancing these things is really critical to having all of this work properly. And as you can see here, even my 6S is a little off balance. So I think that they'll probably have to announce something down the road with that. So if you're contemplating buying an iPhone 7, I would go to their website and see what they say as to how they'll be supporting that phone when it comes out, because this one was made for the iPhone 6 and 6S generation of products. Now these motors require a lot of energy to keep the phone stable. So even when I have the phone just kind of flat here on the desk and not moving, those motors are actively keeping the phone in position here. So if I switch it off, you can see it just kind of goes into limp noodle mode here, and those motors release. So you get about 2 hours of active stabilization, and that means when this device is on, it is actively stabilizing even if you're not recording video with it. So you'll need to think a little bit about that, but they give you 2 batteries in the box plus an external charger, so you can use one battery while the other one charges. So that might be a helpful way to get through a production day. The motors themselves are not all that noisy, but they do make some noise, kind of a higher pitched noise that might get picked up on your iPhone microphone as you're shooting. So if you are very concerned with picking up dialogue or something directly on your iPhone mic, you might want to look at an external audio solution. I'll do some sample video in a quiet environment so you can see how much noise these make. It's not very loud, but it probably will get picked up on the microphones as you're marching around with it. I think some of the cheaper gimbals out there might be noisier, but just one thing to keep in mind. There are a bunch of controls on it. I'll power it back on so you can see how one of these works. You've got your shutter button down here for starting and stopping video. They have an app, which we'll be exploring here in a minute, that is used specifically with this because the app can control some of the features of the gimbal. So you don't usually use your iPhone camera app, although it will work, because as you can see, even with the phone off, it's keeping it stable. But I definitely suggest using their app, and their app is actually pretty nice. This control here will adjust the pan and the tilt. You can also lock it in and have things done this way manually, or you can have the app or the device follow your hand movements here automatically, just with slower responses to your actual hand movements, which is actually a good thing when you're trying to record smooth and stable video. The power switch is over here, and in the back you have a toggle switch for adjusting some of the settings on the app that you'll be using for shooting video with this and for stills. You can move the control left and right or push it in, but depending on what combination of other buttons you push with it, it will do different things. I'll show you a few of those in a minute, but it is kind of confusing confusing, and you have to often go back to the manual to remember what does what, and I'm finding that I am very regularly putting the app into a mode that I didn't intend to put it in because I hit the right combination of stuff at the wrong time. So a few more buttons would have made sense here on the gimbal device itself. So let me boot up the app now and show you how this works. All right, here is the companion app running on my iPhone 6s. I am passing video of that app back to my computer wirelessly because I couldn't fit my HDMI cable in there, so it might glitch out occasionally, but so far it's been working pretty well as I got everything set up. Now, the reason why you'll want to use their app more often than not is that some of the controls on the Vimble itself can be passed to the app. So, for example, if I want to zoom in the camera here, I can use the rocker switch on the back to do that, as well as setting up other things here too. So if I hold down that switch and then adjust the control in the front here, you can see it's changing some of the modes that I can control with that. So I can set the exposure now with this if I want. I can even, I think, go into some of the focusing with it too. So I can set the focus here with the rocker in the back here, and that is a Bluetooth command going from the Vimble to the phone. And when I show you the face tracking in a minute, you can also have it transfer face tracking data from the phone to the gimbal. So that might be reasons why you would want to use their app versus the built-in Apple camera app. Now remember that 4K shooting is only available on the 6S models, not the 6, but the 6 can do 1080p at 60 frames per second. Now I want to show you the different modes that the gimbal can operate in. So right now we're in the full mode here. So if you see on the bottom when I push in the control on the back, it'll show up as full follow mode. And what that means is that it will try to guess as to where my hand is going and where to point the camera. So as I tilt my hand around here and twist my wrist, it will move the camera in that direction for me automatically. If I move the camera up here, you can see it will pan the camera as well along with my hand movement. So it very much tries to guess what I'm doing. Now, if you don't want that, if you push in that control again and I push the shutter button here on the front, it'll put it into full lock mode. And what this will do is lock the phone in position. So as I twist and turn and move everything around, it keeps the phone locked in the same exact position the entire time and keeps it centered as I'm moving the device around. Now what I can do here is adjust it manually with the control on the front. So if I want to tilt the camera up higher, I can just push it up here and it will move that motor up, and then the phone will lock in that position. So even if I move it down like so, it keeps the view of the image pretty steady here as I'm doing that. So you have that mode, and you have a pitch lock mode, which means that I could pitch the camera down, for example, yet still get that automatic panning thing going on. So you do have a couple of different commands that you can send from the phone to the Vimble to have it operate, and again, that requires a Bluetooth connection. And here you can see what some footage from the device looks like. I've got some stabilized footage on the left, and then the same shot taken with me just holding my phone and walking the same on the right. You can definitely see the Vimble does do a very nice job of smoothing things out. Now there are two other modes I want to show you. The first is the face tracking mode. What we'll do is pull up my image of my video monitor here because it'll work with this too. I'm a low budget production. So if I go over here to the video mode and select smart, I can then hit my face here and start tracking. What it'll do is it'll find my face, and as I move around here, you can see that the phone is changing its position on its gimbal here to get the best view of my face as I'm moving around. So you can see if you were out of doors, you could set this up on a tripod, for example. It has a tripod mount here on the bottom. Another neat thing that you can do with this is set it up to do panoramas, and it actually does a pretty nice job of that. So let's take a look and see how that works. All right, so let's go into panorama mode here. We'll just select pano, and you can see it switches modes. And all I have to do here is just click on this little icon there, and what it'll do is automatically line everything up and then start taking a panoramic picture. Now, it won't go the full 360, but watch what it does. So as it's taking the picture, it'll stop, it'll adjust itself. I found it actually adjusts the tilt of the camera to get the right stitching point there, and you can see it might be doing a little bit of that now. And then it will finish up its picture and then give us an output, so you can see what that looks like. In my studio here, it's a little tougher just given the fact that we have a lot of uneven light right now based on all the light being focused on me for this video production, but it does do a pretty decent job of stitching together panoramas, especially outdoors. It does really nice work with those. But you definitely want to make sure the camera, the gimbal, is locked down on a tripod or steady on a flat surface to make this work as nicely as you'd like it to. But my biggest gripe with the Vimble so far remains getting it level, and there's no manual control for this, so I've been just turning it on and off again, hoping that it gets itself in balance every time. I found that if you keep it on a flat surface and don't really bother it all that much, eventually it'll get better, but as you can see here, it has some degree of fine-tuning to try to find that balance point, and it just can't seem to get itself completely level. So we're going to get to the 0 mark here, and sometimes it'll stay there, and other times, as you can see, it's kind of drifting off again. So I'm seeing a variance of anywhere from 1 to 4 degrees off level as I'm putting this together. It'd be very nice if there was a manual way of setting this level, because that would really make this a much better experience for me. I'm sure they could probably do that through some software. And how you install the phone in the device is really critical in keeping all of this stuff perfectly balanced. So you can't use a case with your phone, and the best thing that I found with it is to get the phone positioned pretty much pushed down to the motor here on the back, and then you tighten it up just by squeezing those two ends together. Once you've got it somewhat settled in, you then use this dial on the back to get it tighter, and that I found to be the best way to get everything working properly. If the phone is out of balance for any reason, the motors will start making some really weird noises, which can be a little scary, but they seem in the manual to say that that's kind of a normal occurrence. So if you are getting some vibration, reseat the phone and see if that does better for you. But again, I'm still having issues getting it balanced perfectly when I am getting everything set up here. So there are some still rough around the edges components to this at the moment. This is probably a pre-production version that they sent me, so there might be some things that they've ironed out for the final version, but most of this I think is correctable. So I think overall it's a pretty good product, but you might want to wait a couple of weeks just for them to get all the software kinks worked out before you place an order for one of these things. But it does do a very nice job of delivering smooth footage when you're running around with the phone. I found that you really don't want to use it upside down. It didn't seem to work well doing that. So if you're trying to get things low to the ground, this may not be the best solution, but when you're standing up and just kind of walking around with it, it will do a lot better than you could do on your own just holding your phone. This is Lon.TV, and thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.